And we are back, theCUBE's live wall-to-wall coverage of RSAC 2026. We're getting deep into day 4 now. It's been a great event. Probably 30,000 people here or more. I mean, of course all the talk is AI and agentic, but the community comes together for the Super Bowl of security once a year here in San Francisco. I'm Dave Vellante with my co-host, Christophe, Bertrand, who's been with me all week. John Olczyk also out doing his reporter's notebook and gathering all the data. Bruno Kurtic is here. He's a co-founder and CEO of Bedrock Data. Bruno, good to see you again.
It's great to be here again.
Saw you the other night at the Greylock event. That was it was a good gathering. A lot of high-powered people there, and so it was good to see you there. But let's start with Bedrock Data. I always like to ask founders and co-founders, why? Why'd you start the company?
Great question. I think I wanted to solve this problem of data management, data security, particularly because it is one of the rare data infrastructure problems that has not been solved yet. Right? And we've been kind of skating along using different kind of crutches to solve this problem, but fundamentally, you know, at the age of AI, data is everything. Data is the fuel, and you need to feed the machine. You need to feed your AI systems to differentiate, and without proper control, you just incur way too much risk. So this was the time to solve this problem, and I'm super excited to do it.
Talking to two data guys, so you're not going to get any debate there, but your fundamental thesis seems to be that AI security is not a model problem. The LLMs aren't going to solve it. It's a data, a kind of context problem. And also, of course, governance. You got to start with governance. Context is an interesting topic these days. So explain your thesis.
So the thesis is the following. Before you can use your data, and every enterprise has monstrous amount of data, right? We're talking petabytes and petabytes of data.
Yep.
The challenge with data is different than the challenge with the infrastructure. Infrastructure is discrete. You can touch it, feel it, you can put your arms around it. Data is not. Data is fluid. It's unstructured. It grows exponentially. And context about data is, what is this data? Where does it live? Who owns it? What's in it? Is it sensitive? How did it get there? What's its lineage? All of these things are essential in understanding data such that you can safely use that data everywhere, including in AI systems.
Look, I mean, data management has been an issue since the days of mainframe, literally. And it seems like we're making progress, but not that much progress. We still have a lot of siloed data, we still have a lot of PII or personal data flying around, and now we're having agents potentially using data it really shouldn't be using, and it can do so with no consequence because they're not human. So, you know, is this a solvable problem? Is it better to try to solve everything before you go do some AI or engage in some AI project, or should we try to fix some of the issues and sort of build the plane as we fly it when it comes to AI? What's your take?
Great question. To go back to your mainframe comment, there is a reason why we call them data centers. Intuitively, we've known for decades that data is at the core. It's not infrastructure, it's not server center, it's not network center, they're data centers, right? Data is the crux of every enterprise, right? And so, I think the reason why our company exists and majority of the drive for our business today is because people are intuitively understanding if we're going to roll out AI systems safely without really sort of grinding to a halt, because of governance, because of security, because of risk, because of compliance, because of regulatory, we have to get our data in order. So I think the reason why the company is called Bedrock is because you build your foundation on Bedrock, right? So the whole premise is, I believe you must get your data in order as much as possible, discover it, classify it, understand it, contextualize it, and then you can roll out AI systems off of. Now, not everybody's doing it, you know, I'll look forward to seeing what happens there, but I absolutely believe that it needs to be done, and it can be done, right? It might not be done all the way, but it definitely can be done.
How much of this is a data problem versus a metadata problem? Do you think about those things differently? Do you think about those in a unified fashion?
Yeah. Data is the source. Metadata is the derivative, right? In order to build the picture of your data, you have to understand the data to construct the metadata, right? Metadata ultimately is what we're going to operate on. We're going to operate on like, hey, this data here, should I allow my AI agent to touch it or no? Or which columns of this table should I allow my agent to touch? So They are separate, but they depend on each other. Metadata is, I think, the layer that's missing, right? Everybody's got lots of data. Yep. Most enterprises don't have the metadata about that data sufficiently clear to be able to use their data effectively and safely.
So how do you handle that? Do you have a purpose-built metadata catalog? You have a knowledge graph? Take us inside the architecture.
So, I spoke at theCUBE, maybe a year or 18 months ago about this. So what we build is we build a metadata lake.
Yep.
That's sort of the foundation of our platform. I think of the metadata lake as a core component in the data supply chain that does not exist to date. Like data catalogs, MDM vendors have done some of that work, but at scale, covering all structured, unstructured, semi-structured data across your on-prems, cloud, SaaS, is difficult, right? And so our job at Bedrock is to crawl the environments, peer into all data sets, data stores, understand each piece of data and construct this metadata lake that ultimately serves as a source of context to all downstream processes.
I have a quick follow-up on that. I certainly understand on-prem and maybe controlled environments, whether private cloud, I get that. I'm less sure about the SaaS environments. They're all very different. They all have different APIs. Essentially, most SaaS applications are a collection of big databases with a bunch of semi-structured data. Thinking of Salesforce, for example, I mean, anytime you try to get into Salesforce, you end up using calls, which go against your quota. So you end up with some issues with that, potentially in consumption. So how do you overcome that, especially with the multiplicity of SaaS applications that have all sorts of different access APIs, if you will?
SaaS and cloud are to some degree similar and to some degree different, right? In the cloud, you operate on quota. You're charged for compute. You're charged for network and all these things, right? In SaaS, it's different, right? Sometimes you're charged by user, by data volume, whatnot, right? Ultimately, majority of data sets in SaaS live in a handful of core systems, and you mentioned some of them. It's Microsoft 365, it's Google Drive, it's Box, it's Salesforce, it's Confluence, and things like that, right? And so for our customers that we work with, they care about those systems where majority of the data lives. And it happens to be a handful of systems, and then there's a long tail. They all have different APIs, they all have different ways of charging, but ultimately, one has to get a picture of those documents, right? Ultimately, without understanding what's in each document, what is shared, what is not shared, what's sensitive, it's difficult to govern it. And so it's difficult to use DLP if you don't do that, all of these things, right? And so the long game for us is we have to have integrations with every system. We have to understand every API where sensitive data lives, and we roll those out continuously. Like we know that that's the ground game. We have to integrate with all the systems where data lives.
And you can do that in the Salesforce without affecting governor limits, for example. I mean, that's really my question here, because that's the biggest pain in the neck in this.
And Salesforce is one thing, then you've got things like Microsoft 365, which has severe throttling on the APIs. Why? Because that causes compute. So we have to operate such that within those boundaries and so limitations of those systems, we operate in such a way where you don't impact customers' environments, and we don't.
Snowflake participated in your last round. They made an investment in the company. I have a couple questions around that. So what is your relationship with Snowflake? You saw Ben Horowitz and Ali Gotzi were here this week making noise about a thing they called Lake Watch. Always, if Snowflake does it, Databricks has to do it, and vice versa. So curious as to what you think of that, how you partner with Snowflake, what kind of products you guys envision together, how you differentiate from others in the market who are kind of positioning as a next-gen SIEM. How do you position? If you could help us understand all that.
Sure. Snowflake is an extremely important source of data for enterprise, right? It is in many situations the lake of all important enterprise data. And Snowflake's strategy involves being the core AI system for the enterprise, because if you sit on all of that data, you might as well put it to good use, right? And so the relationship between us and Snowflake is that we already help Snowflake customers at scale manage security of that data, understand what's in that data, classify, trigger masking policies, all of those things. Snowflake invested in Bedrock data because we are very complementary to their customer base in a way where Snowflake's Cortex is their core AI platform. And in order for their customers to safely roll out AI applications on top of Cortex, they need to understand what's in the data, they need to govern it. And so the combination of Bedrock data and Snowflake is that we provide visibility into both the data and the agents and allow their Snowflake customers to build guardrails to safely roll out AI agents on top of Snowflake. And also to inform the Snowflake Horizon catalog about datasets outside of Snowflake to give Snowflake the visibility into datasets that don't yet live in Snowflake that sort of live in other places in the enterprise.
Okay, so you're tightly integrated with Horizon. What about Polaris? What's your thoughts on the sort of, the open source activity that's going on in the world of catalogs? Everybody seems to want it, but they don't really know how they're going to govern it, and how it's going to be managed. It's sort of the Wild West.
Yeah.
In the quest for open, which is really not an outcome. But anyway, I'd love your thoughts on that.
You know, it's a deep question. We could spend a lot of time on that. I would say that our perspective on catalogs in general, our perspective on AI and data is that we currently coexist with a lot of catalogs in our customer bases, whether they're open source catalogs or proprietary catalogs. Sure. And our job in those enterprises to inform those catalogs about data context they don't have, autonomously, right? Find what they don't know, find what they don't see, understand the data at a deep level, and then power deeper knowledge into those catalogs so that enterprises that rely on them use them, right? Whether those are open source technologies or closed source technologies like Unity Catalog or others.
So just to follow up, because I mean, it seems to me the market is pressuring, I mean, the beauty of Snowflake is you're inside of Snowflake and everything works, it's managed, it's safe. You go outside of Snowflake, it's like, okay, you're kind of on your own. Now, I've talked to Benoit Dageville a lot about this, is that essentially they're bringing much of the capability of Horizon to their open source, but it seems to me that partners like you are critical in that regard to be able to maintain that richness, both inside and outside. I mean, it seems inevitable that capability is going to migrate to open source. And you've effectively just said, you have to work with all of them.
Yeah. Whether it's open source or closed source, you have the same problem.
Yes.
You can deploy open source technology in-house, inside, outside Snowflake. Ultimately, data changes all the time, rapidly at scale. Developers copy production data sets into lower environments to do development. All of this stuff flows. There's ETL systems everywhere, agents, MCP servers, surface data everywhere. No matter what system you use, you have to understand what's on the ground.
But I'm trying to, the other part of my question was trying to understand how you differentiate from what I think others are calling a next-gen SIEM. I mean, that's what sort of Databricks is looking at. I think Elastic is looking at something similar. How do you position relative to
Great question. We're not a SIEM.
Right.
Like, what we do for every SIEM, including the SIEM that I built at Sumo Logic, right?
Yep.
We had a SIEM, we had a SOAR, we had all of those technologies. Yep. One of the key problems for all of those technologies, including the new Databricks thing and other SIEM tools out there, is that they don't have the data risk context, right? The one big problem with any SIEM is that it fires a lot of alerts, and a statistic that I know from my previous company was that only 15% of alerts can be addressed by any SOC team. So what our job in this context of a SIEM is to feed the SIEM the context of, hey, this particular identity that you're detecting is generating some alert has a high blast radius access to sensitive data. That gets prioritized. This piece of infrastructure where something malicious is happening, that houses sensitive data versus does not, right? So our job is to deliver that context that nobody else has so that every downstream tool does a better job.
Thank you.
So do you think that by leveraging your technology in combination with a data lake, in general terms, or just data in general, can you make agents compliant? Meaning they cannot access data that they shouldn't. If there's PII, you can't touch it, for example. Can you enforce rules like that?
Yeah. So the metadata lake that we build has multiple properties about this. One is we actually unpack the full entitlement chain. So we know which identities through which paths have access to which data sets. We also know which data sets are sensitive. And as agents, perform work on behalf of users. So agent can have a Uber identity, it can take an identity of a user that they operate on behalf of. We have actually released our own MCP server for this very purpose. We want agents that are accessing data stores to be able to, through our MCP server, query and understand what they are allowed to use on behalf of the users and identities they operate under. So we are actually interested in proposing an industry way of governing agents in an autonomous way, because we have the context of what they should be able to do, right? Industry is not ready for that quite yet, right? But we are constructing a system that we believe would be an autonomous agent governance mechanism.
So literally a data cop.
Yeah, that's right. Like, ask me before you do.
Right. You have this concept of an AI data bill of materials. What is an AI data bomb?
DBOM, riffs off of SBOM, right? DBOM is essentially a deep inspection of a payload that AI systems can access. It could be your M365 SharePoint, it could be a RAG repository you built for yourself, but the job of DBOM, which is a special built capability for AI on top of our data platform, is to tell that the engineers and architects of that system what exactly agents can access inside of these payloads. And it doesn't just sit on the level of atomic classification. It's not just PII, PHI, and things like that. It also has a full taxonomy, meaning business context taxonomy. This is financial data. These are offer letters. These are financial transactions. And also can tell the system whether there are things inside of the data that could bias the models. Things like socioeconomic status and things like that. So that when you're building your AI systems, you really understand what risks you will incur when they go live.
Okay, so I guess my last question is, if you're an enterprise, you got to be able to know, what my agents have access to, how they're getting there, what the entitlements are. Ultimately, these things are going to determine what my business risk is. Yep. Is it fair to say that if you're not governing AI this way, you're just kind of hoping that nothing breaks?
Hope's not a strategy.
Hope's not a strategy. And so, what's your advice to enterprises to really sort of firm that up?
We just actually released a pretty strong point of view on this. We released an update to our Argus AI, which is our agentic technology on top of our data platform. And as part of that release, we defined what we think AI risk surface looks like. AI risk surface really is a triad. It's data sensitivity, entitlements and exposure, and agent capabilities. Those three things construct a formula that defines what is your level of AI risk surface. And each one of those points in a triangle can be managed to reduce that risk surface. So, currently my belief is that a lot of enterprises are building and rolling out AI on a shaky foundation. And ultimately, I think everybody needs to take a step back, put some brakes in the system so they can go faster, right? I do think that ultimately, knowing and slowing down until you get the foundation right will allow you to move faster in the future.
Okay, so I lied, not my last question. So just did your Series A.
Yep.
Customer traction, how would you describe that?
It's going great. Our customer base is growing. We just finished our first full year of selling. We've been out of stealth for about almost 2 years. I think it was RSA last year. Yep. We came out 2 years ago. And we are adding customers in large enterprises. We just closed on Monday a Fortune 150 enterprise. Financial services, health tech, technology companies, large scale, multinational, that's kind of what our customer base looks like.
So you've got your product market fit, you've been probably living off of product-led growth. Are you scaling go-to-market now, or?
We are. We have a whole full sort of framework for our go-to-market team. We have a head of sales, head of marketing, head of sales ops, head of the business development, a head of customer success. So we have a full organization now, scaling. We have lots of sellers peppered around North America, and so yeah, we're growing, and if people are interested in joining us, come
Nice.
reach out to me.
That's great. Well, what are you looking for? I mean, what's your ideal, go-to-market pro look like?
We're looking for people who are excited to basically solve a problem for the enterprise that is very difficult, upon which rests the next decade of enterprise replatforming into AI. And I think that's super exciting, and I think there's a lot of demand for that today.
Excellent. Bruno, thanks so much for coming back in theCUBE. Love to have you back and track your progress, so good luck.
Appreciate it, thank you very much.
You bet. All right, and thank you for watching. This is Dave Vellante for Christophe, Bertrand. We're mid-morning here on day 4, RSAC 2026. Right back, you're watching theCUBE.